Warning, this podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
To complement the film that we're covering this week, we decided to make this episode extra fucking bananas.
This was on purpose.
So we snorted 30 pixie sticks before we started.
Inserting the sugary pixie stick into your nose is better.
Well, yeah, where else would you put it?
But that's where I always put it.
So you're going to mainline
This has
sugar
been an
into
education.
your butthole.
This has been an education.
How do you get it to go?
You squeeze.
Squeeze what? Can you do that with your butt?
I could try. There's no guarantee it'll work. I imagine if you get like just a little tiny portion, that's a success.
I feel like this is something you would do in a hotel, not at your home.
I'm not saying it's not something I haven't done in a hotel.
You do stay in a lot of hotels.
I do.
I'm going to check your bag for pixie sticks next time before you leave.
Oh no. She's found me out.
Scaredy cat, have a scary chat. Scaredy cat with Rob and Ash.
Welcome back to Scaredy Cat. I'm Robbie,
And I'm Ash.
and this is the podcast where one person who loves horror films,
And somebody else who would rather not.
we do stuff to them. To the horror films.
What?
We do stuff.
What kind of stuff do we do?
Sexual stuff.
No.
Non-sexual stuff. Acrobatic stuff.
I'm not coordinated.
Acrolenient stuff.
What is that?
I don't know. I made it up.
Sounds like a lean cuisine. An acrolean.
It's the microwave version. Oh, wait. Lean cuisines were microwave, weren't they?
Yes.
Or were they oven?
Lean cuisines are, I believe, microwave, but microwave food is gross.
So what's the oven one? Is that Sally Jesse Raphael?
Yep. No, she had a talk show.
Sally
Jesse Raphael.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
Nope, that's the lady that was on Sex and the City.
Sally Mae?
No, that's the person that calls me the most.
Sally Fields?
No, she's Mrs. Doubtfire's employer. Well, no,
What am I thinking about? Sarah Crockett? Sarah Crocker?
What?
Sarah May?
Sarah Lee?
Sarah Lee, there it is. That's what I was looking
I don't
for.
think that's right either.
That whole
Marie
time.
Callender.
I was way off.
Marie Callender, right?
Those were the ones that you put in the oven.
I don't know. I think so. I don't know. We don't eat a lot of pre-prepared food because it's bad for you.
I used to eat it all the time when I was a kid.
Well, I'm shocked that you're still alive.
Plus, the 90s was very much a time when people bought into microwave bullshit. They
That's
thought it was healthy.
My house, I'd never had a frozen pizza until I met you.
We believed every single advertisement there was on TV. Because nobody really thought to doubt it at that point.
Well, actually, in my house, we doubted everything because my dad was a food scientist, and he worked for a potato salad company like most of my childhood. And then he also worked for another company that processed meat for like Papa John's and shit. And some of the shit that he told us about that, it's disgusting.
Well, my dad was not a scientist of any kind.
Well, my dad's a fucking biochemist, so there. My dad's cooler than your dad.
You could probably beat him up in a fight, too.
Probably. In real life, yes.
So anyway, this week,
What are we doing? What's happening?
we're going to watch a bananas film.
Bananas like crazy or bananas like
It's
the fruit?
bonkers bananas.
Good, because I
Crazy
don't
pants.
like bananas.
I know. I've known you for a very long time.
No, you don't. No, because you keep putting bananas in my lunch.
It's because we have bananas.
I don't like bananas. I don't like the texture.
I think I just do that to troll you.
You do, and it's very obnoxious. I don't like it. I give them away.
Yeah, so this one is nutty. And we'll get into why after you guess what it's about.
Okay.
The film is House.
That's it? Just house?
That's it, just House. I can give you a year if it helps.
Sure.
1977. So, 1977,
House.
bonkers. Go.
Hang on. Give me a second. This is abstract.
This is also not the house that has the series of films, like the little hand trying to open the door. That's not this film.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Ashley.
I don't know. I don't know.
For shame.
Don't use my real name.
So, when you worked at the movie theater,
Store.
Thor.
The movie Thor.
The little Thor, that was a movie. When you worked at the movie store,
I'm sorry. Now we have to open a business called the Movie Thor.
we
have
sell
to.
Mighty films.
We're basically obligated at this point. That is the most adorable thing I've ever heard. Like, where are you going? I'm going to the Movie Thor.
Got mighty prices.
Oh, if we could just put hammers on everything.
Like Rap Thar's
Ooh, and maybe
hammer.
Chris Hemsworth would come hang out. I'm down. Let's do it. Let's quit our jobs and open a Movie Thor. It's so delightful. Every time I say it, it just makes me giggle.
This is getting out of hand.
Sorry.
Okay, so when you worked at the movie store,
The Movie Thor.
one of the series that you had in the horror section was the House series.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that shit.
The cover had a hand unlocking a door in the first one. And then as the series progressed, each videotape had a more and more decomposed hand reaching towards the door.
I like vaguely remember this VHS cover.
I have never seen those films.
Well,
So-
for shame.
They are on the list, but this is not those films.
Okay, so House
But
19.
I want to say those films probably got started somewhere similar to when this one released.
Okay, so House 1977.
7.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that this movie takes place on a boat in the middle of the ocean. And
Throwing a curveball.
there's a crew who are kind of a misfit, thrown together crew.
Are there any pirates?
No pirates, no beards, no beanies.
Is Mickey Mouse any of these?
No tattoos. This is straight edge,
Straight
clean cut
sailors.
sailors, but not sailors, not real sailors. They're college students. Okay, I've got it. So they're college students. They're being led by one like super egotistical dick guy who thinks that he can lead them to some sort of treasure on an island. And so he hires this boat to take them on their adventure, and they're the crew. So they rent the boat essentially, and it's like a ship. And he fancies himself a ship captain. He's a dick.
Richard?
Yeah, his name's Richard.
Okay.
And he's Richard the Fourth.
But he's a big Richard.
No, he's very tiny. It's ironic.
So
And
he's a big Richard.
His name is Big Richard, but he's very small. It's like when people call like fish fluffy, or like big guys tiny,
Is that ironic?
or yeah, Alanis Morissette. It's ironic. Or like Little John was a giant bear, right? And they named him Little John, which is silly. I mean, they should have named him
Actually,
Big John.
hang on. Little John was not actually a giant bear.
I've seen the movie. I've read the book.
Do you think the Disney film was like an accurate representation of
I've
Robin
read
Hood?
I've read the book, Robert. So, back to my story. Richard, Little Richard, Big Richard.
Is he a singer?
Big Richard. No, he's tone deaf. He's a mess.
What's wrong with your Richard character?
He's a mess.
You just hate this Richard.
I don't like him. He
not your
turns
favorite.
out to be like a bad guy. He hires this boat to take these college kids out to the middle of the ocean, to this island that he thinks he knows. And
Is his boat named Richard's Dinghy?
no, it's not. It's a hired boat. It's called like Pinto Marina, and that's it. It doesn't have any significance. It doesn't matter. So
I think it matters a lot.
no, it doesn't.
It does.
You're derailing my story, which I'm trying to concoct in my head.
All right, go ahead. Harlot of the Sea.
What?
That's the name of the boat. Harlot of the Sea.
Sure. It's a whore boat.
No, it's a big dick boat. We've established that.
No. Anyways, I can't. You're silly.
Big Dick Richard is the captain of
Big
Harlot
Dick
of the
Richard?
Sea. Big
No.
Dick Richard.
His name is Big Richard or Dick.
What?
Yeah.
You said he was a big dick.
He is a big dick.
So Big Dick Little Richard is the captain of
This is
Harlot
getting
of the Sea.
this is getting silly.
This is getting silly. What does he do on this boat?
Okay, I'm trying to tell you.
Otherwise known as Harlot of the Sea.
Okay, the boat is called Harlot of the Sea.
Okay, cool.
So he's
I'm on board.
He's taking these
Literally.
kids. I'm making a face at you right now. So he's taking these kids to this island so they can find this treasure. No one has access to the map except him. He's keeping it in a safe in the captain's quarters. He's the only one allowed in. He's kind of an asshole. Everybody else has to sleep on the deck, which is kind of shitty because it's hot. And these are all like pale kids. These are kids that require like SPF 100. Our children, like us.
So he's selfish Big Dick Little Richard, who is the
Stop,
captain of the
stop.
Harlot of the Sea,
This is getting silly.
who's going to an island that he has a map for
Right.
while he tortures college kids.
He's not torturing them. He's hazing them into his cult.
Or into his frat. Hey Gabba Gabba. Or is it Yo Gabba Gabba?
It's Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yo Gabba Gabba. I like that. His fraternity is Yo Gabba Gabba.
You have emotional problems.
So Big Dick Little Richard, who is the captain of the Harlot of the Sea, is taking all these frat boys who are being hazed into the Yo Gabba Gabba out to find this treasure. I love this story. I am on board.
So let me get to the scary part. So eventually they realize that they've run out of food and they've been eating.
What are they eating? Did they eat Tinky Winky?
So Richard.
Wait, was that Yo Gabba Gabba or was that
No, stop. Richard brought his dog.
Richard Pryor? Is there?
Richard brought his dog on board. And it had
Is that
been
Little Dick Big Richard?
and it had been 2 weeks since they set sail. They've been
On a 3-hour
eating-
tour?
No, they've been eating.
Harlot of the Sea is a big boat?
Yeah, you're confusing your mess with my story.
How big is this ship?
It's a ship.
Like how big?
It's like a normal size ship.
What's normal?
Average.
So 4 inches
If that's what you need to tell yourself, then yes.
for my Big Dick Little Richard.
So, he brought his dog on board. They've run out of gruel.
Okay.
They've started eating whatever they can find. Toenails.
Which is the first thing you turn to?
Toenails.
Toenails.
You're eating sea slugs. They're trying to catch like a pelican here and there. But it's hard because they're in the middle of the ocean. I'm pretty sure pelicans stay close to land, so
Yes.
they're just out. They're just SOL.
They
These
can't
poor
fly
kids.
forever.
These poor children. So they suddenly, Richard is like, "Hey guys, I found some extra gruel in the back," and he brings it out, and it's gruel. And then they start eating it, and nobody's ever had gruel before, and so they don't know what it's supposed to taste
I'm
like.
sure people have had gruel.
No, none of these kids have had gruel before. These are like organic apples kids. These aren't like gruel kids, right?
Okay. Right.
So they start eating the gruel,
Then
and
the main question is, why are they joining Yo Gabba Gabba?
because they're organic apples kids that want to be
Yo Gabba
Gruel.
Gabba kids?
want to be gruel kids.
Okay.
So they start eating the gruel, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is delicious. Hey, where's the dog?" And then he's like, he's in your gruel. You're eating the dog. You're a cannibal." And then they're like, "Oh my god."
Wait. Wait a second. Why would that make you a cannibal? Are they all dogs?
Yeah.
Is that the twist? Little Dick Big Richard, was he really Big Dick Little Richard the whole
I
time?
don't know what you're trying to say. No, these are dogs that have pet dogs. Like they walk them and
So it's like a goofy
Pluto situation.
Pluto situation. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Thank you for finally catching up.
It's a Pluto sitch.
Yes. The end.
Holy shit. My mind is blown.
Is that what it's about?
No. No, that is not what this film is about.
Why not?
So this film, House, from 1977. Jaws was released in America.
Wait. Jaws? So it is on the ocean.
You're correct. Jaws is on the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
This film, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But Jaws is released in like I'm going to say 75.
Sure.
And it's such a big success that Toho, a Japanese film company, wants to make their own Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring it to a director, but he decides that the best ideas aren't going to come from them because they're old people.
Well, people don't have any good ideas. Look at the government.
He has 2 preteen daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks they have a better ideas than the adults.
I love this already. Did they write it, or did they sit there while their dad wrote it?
Their dad wrote it, but they gave him ideas. We're going to watch this film. We're going to come back and we're going to have a logical conversation about it.
It's going to be very boring. There's going to be notes.
I don't think so. All right. We'll be back.
Or we won't.
All right. We're back on... Wow.
I don't even...
That was the most bonkers films we've ever done.
I don't know if it was the most brilliant thing I've ever seen or the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like, if the Holy Grail was a horror movie, that's what this would be.
Let's break this out. So, director... By the way, we know I'm good with names. I'm going to
In case you're joining us for the first time, Rob's terrible with non-American names.
I'm going to nail these names. First try. Watch
Okay,
this.
let's do it.
Director Nabuiki Obayashi.
Okay.
This is his first feature film.
Okay.
Before this, he was a commercial director.
Which makes a lot of sense. Like, a lot of these scenes feel like early 70s commercials. Just, like, pushed together into one long film.
He would go on to do a lot of experimental films, and this is obviously one of those experimental films.
Right. Which you have to kind of appreciate because, like, art is art.
But he's also famous for doing an ad series with Charles Bronson in it called Mandem,
What?
where Charles Bronson would wear this cologne. When I watched the commercial, he's just, like, pouring it all over himself.
Okay.
While a song sings the words Mandem.
All the world loves a lover. All the girls in every London and to know the joy of loving is to live in the world of Mandem. アリカ、それはマンダム。
Okay.
Before we started this, I said that he consulted his daughters, plural.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one daughter, and she was 10.
Our daughter is 10.
Our daughter could come up with this, apparently.
She wrote a story last week called The Ugly Princess. And she couldn't find a prince, and she was really upset about it. Until one day, an ugly prince showed up at the castle. And so the ugly princess married the ugly prince. And so it wasn't sad.
So all the girls in this film are not actresses.
Shock.
They were models that he
So
pulled from his
shocking.
commercial work.
Okay.
The main 7 are Kimiki Ikigami as Gorgeous,
Okay.
Miki Jinbo as Kung Fu,
Okay.
Ai Matabara as Prof,
Okay.
Kumiki Uba as Fantasy, Miyako Sato as Mac,
Wow. Okay.
Ariko Tanaka as Melody,
Okay.
and Masayo Miyako as Sweet.
Okay.
I'm sure that's fantastic.
That's
I feel
all
like-
wrong.
I feel like they're right now There's somebody out there like, yes, that's how you say those names. All of them.
Finally, somebody got
somebody
it right.
gets it right first try. This is production cards. So straight off the bat, Toho Films. Toho is one of the most famous Japanese film studios. It's famous for Godzilla. It's famous for Studio Jubiri, or Ghibli, as we say here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it also brought us Akira Kurosawa films.
Okay. Wait, Akira Kurosawa, is that the guy that made that insane movie where at the end of it the woman starts lactating and it fills up the house?
No, that's Takashi Miike.
Oh, that guy's fucked up.
Akira Kurosawa is the Seven Samurai guy.
Okay.
He's Rashomon.
Okay, so Takashi
Takashi Miike.
Miike? His shit's fucked up.
I love Takashi Miike films. We will get to them eventually.
Because we watched so much Japanese horror when we first started living together, American horror does not scare me now. Because it is scary on a level that we don't get to. Like,
Yeah.
it's unnerving.
They like to fuck with their people over there.
And they do it well. They do it very well.
We didn't see this film in America until 2009 when another studio, Janus Films, bought the rights. Janus Films. So Janus Films has been around since 1956.
Janus, like
the Roman god Janus.
Oh, that explains their logo.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now.
They bought the rights to this. They also have a lot to do with Criterion Collection.
Mm-hmm.
They bought the rights to this in 2009 and put it out on DVD in America.
Okay.
It's the first time we saw it. It actually did really well in Japan, but Toho Films was kind of embarrassed by it, so they swept it under the
I can't
rugs.
even imagine why.
Now that being said, like, it was a success. Like, they put it out. They didn't. They even like paired it with a romantic comedy because they didn't think it was going to do very well, and people were like clamoring for it. Like, this was a big success in Japan. I figured the best way to do this is we'll lay out a general plot, and then we'll go back and talk about the banana shit.
Okay, so just like sweeping overview.
All 7 of these girls are named after their personality
These
traits.
are basically the 7 dwarfs.
Gorgeous is
Sleepy.
gorgeous. Kung Fu has Kung Fu skills.
Yes, and she loses her pants at some point.
Towards the end, everybody starts dropping their
They
clothes.
all are naked.
Prof is smart,
She has glasses.
although doesn't make a single smart move in this entire film.
Well, she
She
just,
does have glasses, though.
She just keeps yelling about nothing being logical,
Right.
which I kind of appreciate.
Fantasy, who technically is the only person to make it through this film
Mm-hmm.
till the very end.
Wait, does she?
I don't think she makes it, but like, she's the last one to get killed off.
Okay.
She is. Why did they call her Fantasy?
Because she's...
They don't believe her. Is
No,
mainly
because
the-
she lives in a fantasy world.
Right.
She's making shit up in her head.
and they don't believe her when she starts talking about all the stuff that's happening.
Yeah, because it's all fantasy.
Mac is extremely hungry. They keep referring to her as fat,
She's their tum-tum.
but she is not fat.
She's not fat. She's the same size as all the other
Like I
girls.
said, these are all models.
Yeah.
Melody plays the piano.
Mm-hmm.
She only knows one goddamn tune, but she plays the piano.
Well, she
And-
was bewitched.
And Sweet is sweet.
She's cleaning the house.
So at the beginning, they all talk about going to Gorgeous's aunt's house.
Yes.
And Gorgeous meets her new mom, who she doesn't like.
Well, who does like their new mom?
However, her new mom, her clothes continuously blow in the wind.
Yeah.
She has a scarf that does not come down at all.
She's like all majestic and shit.
Right.
There's no reason for her to not like her new mom. She literally just met her,
Right.
knows nothing about this woman. Apparently her mother has been dead for 8 years.
Right. So they go to the house. They meet her aunt, who's wheelchair bound for a while.
Who has the most magnificent gray hair I've ever seen in my life. If I go gray, that's how I want to go. Just like full platinum.
But weird shit starts happening around the house.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they each start getting killed off one by one.
Right.
So that's the overview of the story. That's the bare bones, like, that's a plot.
That's what happens. I
Now-
mean, and really, you can't really do like a play-by-play of it because it's
It is so bonkers.
bananas.
If you imagine any effect that you've ever seen in any movie, they all happen in this one. I have to give him mad props though, because like this could not have been easy to do in 1977. I would like to know how long he worked on this film.
Probably a lot. There was a lot of post-production work happening here. Do people still say mad props?
I did twice.
I know I'm concerned.
I'm a person. I have feelings. I go pee-pee standing up.
Which makes you more important than all the people that go pee-pee sitting down?
Well, according to this movie.
What?
Well, we'll get there. So let's start off and just talk about some things.
I
that
stopped
noticed.
taking notes after the first 10 seconds because I was like, there's no way I can keep up and take notes.
The soundtrack is the same notes over and over and over again. The whole way through the film.
Well, they bought the rights to one song
Well, yeah,
and they used the fuck out of it.
They did. The titles, the word house says house. Like it goes house.
And then the O is a mouth with an eyeball in the middle of it.
Yes. Which
makes
comes into play
sense.
later on.
Which makes sense. Do you want to go through
The
how...
deaths.
Yeah.
So the girls arrive at the house and the aunt is showing them around, and then the aunt is creepy to begin with. Like there's something just off about her the whole time.
She's just a little too smiley, a little too excited to have them there. She won't let them get into the fridge.
And this movie won't decide if it's a horror or a comedy. It keeps going back and forth. Even the scenes where it's supposed to be horror, you have like a dancing skeleton in the background.
Right.
Or a cat will have like flashy blue eyes or
Green
eyes. There's just a lot of like winky nod to stuff to the camera.
Even at one point, the aunt is
Literally.
crawling around. She's crawling around. She crawls up to the camera, looks at you, and kind of
Yeah.
almost winks.
And then goes into a dance number.
With the skeleton.
And the cat. And then she eats a hand. So when they get there, the aunt tells them that she can't do the chores anymore.
Yeah.
So they all take up some aspect of the chores. Mac decides that, since she's so fat, she can do the cooking.
She's not bad.
Sweet cleans the house.
But her cleaning the house is her walking around on all fours with a rag.
Well, this is a Japanese thing. Like, this is how they clean floors.
With
This
a
is-
rag on their knees?
They'll put a rag on the floor and then they push it across the ground. I wrote down I could not see myself cleaning like this.
I mean, we're clean people.
They-
Our house is currently clean. We are neat, clean people. But, I'm not getting down on my hands and knees with a rag.
They probably have killer thighs though. Right off the back, Mac gets killed, but Mac gets killed off screen. Fantasy finds her head, which then floats through the air and bites her on the ass before vomiting and falling into a well.
Yes.
When the girls go to check what Fantasy tells them, they find a watermelon instead of the head. They all are eating the watermelon.
And then you kind of hear someone, calling out from inside the watermelon.
Right, the watermelon shakes a little bit.
But nobody notices. It's just us.
Oh, there's also, let me just throw this in here. They keep talking about Fantasy's boyfriend, who's Mr. Togo.
One of their teachers. I think he's supposed to be
Both?
their teacher, and they're teasing her about him being her boyfriend.
Well, he's coming to the house, too.
For no reason.
But he is our comedic relief in all of it. They keep cutting back and forth between scenes of him, and every scene he's in is a bananas scene where he's doing something ridiculous.
Literally, bananas.
So, yeah, that comes in. Each person in the film has a theme song. It's
Yes.
just different it's just different parts of the same overall song.
Mm-hmm.
Kung Fu, whenever she does anything Kung Fu-y, she has a little Kung Fu sting that they throw in. Melody plays the same thing on the piano that you're hearing constantly through the movie. Which is kind of cool. Like, I like when a film plans it out that far in advance. Like, this is going to be the song, and that's the song they play. But they hit you with the song so many times that by the time you hear it on the piano, it's already burned into your head. And the song is really close to that song from the Polyphonic Spree.
Light and day is more than you'll say, 'cause all my feelings are more than I can let by or not. It's more than you.
And so all I can think is just hearing that song in my head, which I hated hearing that song back in the day.
Which, we listened to that song. I don't find it to be particularly similar. But then we went down a Polyphonic Spree rabbit hole.
Yes.
And when I worked in a theater was when Polyphonic Spree kind of hit their stride. And that their one, like, really big song played 800 times a day. And I associate it with sweeping up popcorn and finding dirty diapers under theater seats.
So Matt goes first. She's followed by Sweet. Sweet's second. So Sweet is sweeping. She's on all fours doing the sweeping thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Gorgeous goes to take a bath.
Right. At some point, Gorgeous turns to Fantasy, and she says, "I'm sweaty. Let's take a bath."
Yes.
And you're like, what? But then Fantasy does not go with her to take a
Nope.
bath. Fantasy chops the wood so that Gorgeous can have hot water.
That's Kung Fu.
Was that Kung Fu?
Kung Fu chops the wood.
Oh my god.
Kung Fu chops the wood because she's out there and the wood comes back to life and attacks her,
That's right.
and she Kung Fu's it into submission.
That's correct. You're right.
Yes. But she takes her bath. Hair creeps up over the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually happens in this film before it happens in The Grudge.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have stolen that. It's possible.
Well, it could be an homage.
But that's it. She survives that. However, Sweet goes into a closet to find the bedding, but she finds a porcelain doll instead that has green glowing eyes.
Always run from the dolls.
If any door, and this happens over and over again in this film, if the door opens before you touch it, that is not the room to go in.
Don't go into the room.
It's not your room.
Dolls are creepy as fuck.
Especially old dolls.
Yeah, all dolls. Dolls are just weird.
Dolls go to hell.
They take you with them.
While they're eating the watermelon, the ant is chewing, and I think Fantasy looks at her, and it shows a close-up of her face, and she opens her mouth, and it's an eyeball.
Hence the title.
And the eyeball in her mouth turns with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty cool little thing.
It's actually very cool.
So Sweet is in the closet with the doll, and she gets smothered by mattresses that fall down.
Yes.
One of the least threatening
Which
deaths
is
that you can
how
imagine.
I want to go.
Right.
Smothered in
Comfortable.
bedding.
Just downy fluff pillows.
I want to go in a big, fluffy bed, just smothered in warmth and lovingness. Actually, I don't. I'm terrified of being suffocated. I'm mildly claustrophobic.
When they go to investigate, they only find her clothes, which leads up to a joke. Prof says it smells or something.
She says, "I found her underwear."
Yes, and then somebody else says it smells. Prof whiffs, takes a whiff of the panties and says, "Yes, it smells." Felt like the whole scene was just leading up to that.
It's entirely possible. But she's holding her underwear in her hand, just talking with them.
Yes.
Gesturing with the underwear in her hand, which is kind of weird. I don't know.
Gorgeous is upstairs putting on lipstick, and she sees a bunch of nuts.
Gorgeous has been bewitched at this point.
Not yet. This is when she gets bewitched.
Oh, never
But
mind.
she's putting on lipstick, and she starts seeing weird shit in the mirror. The mirrors crack. I honestly could not tell
I'm
who
assuming that
was.
it was her mom.
But it cracks into 6,000 pieces, and blood starts running down it. And then Gorgeous cracks and shatters.
And she sets on fire.
Melody is playing the same goddamn tune on the piano.
Right. Well, she's also been bewitched at this point.
Yes, because she says it felt like the piano bit her when she was playing earlier.
Yeah.
And then when all the girls go to investigate something else, she's playing... Okay, hang on. Back up a second. They discover that Sweet is gone. So they do the only logical thing. decide to play the piano.
That's what I would do if you ever disappeared.
So they decide to have a good think around the piano. They all run upstairs to see what Gorgeous found, except for Fantasy. Fantasy stays behind.
With Melody
With
to
Melody.
protect her.
But Fantasy knows something weird is going on with Melody because she won't stop playing the piano.
Right.
And then she tries to force her away from the piano to no avail. And the piano eats her hands. And then the piano just eats her. Then we get the bonkers, like... It looks like they took blue paint and they painted parts of her body. And then they had her spin around in circles. And then they cut those pieces into chunks and overlaid it on top of this piano so it could look like she was being eaten by the piano.
Yes, the skinny is she got eaten by the piano.
They find Gorgeous upstairs, but Gorgeous is dressed in a wedding gown.
Wedding costume.
Wedding costume?
They call it a costume.
She leads Kung Fu into a back room where they see Sweet in a clock, and she like explodes in blood or something.
Something like that. She says something to them and then she explodes inside the clock. But they keep talking about how loud this clock is, like all the way through the film. And they're right. I mean, the clock is unusually loud.
Not as loud as the fucking soundtrack.
True.
So at this point, they've discovered something's wrong. Prof says to Fantasy the best line of it all. She says, "Don't worry, your boyfriend is coming. Mr. Togo is a man. He can save us."
He can't. He can't save you.
And I was like, yeah, he can.
No, he doesn't.
We can do anything.
No, you can't. You obviously can't.
We can do anything.
I mean, listen, men are fine. But you can't fix everything. Like, there are some things that just... I mean, and obviously, in this, there are some things that just can't be fixed.
When she says this, Fantasy has this flash of, like, imagining Mr. Togo on a horse riding towards her.
Yes.
And then it cuts to reality where Mr. Togo is, like, in traffic with, like, a truck behind him blaring its horn at him. This is where he pulls off a transition that I really, really liked. They're sitting there and they're talking, and then she says something like, "Oh, we're waiting for Mr. Togo," and then this dude with a bowl of noodles, like, jumps in her face from off camera. And he's, like, just eating and looking right at her. And then that transitions in the scene where Mr. Togo is eating noodles with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool. Like, the guy is literally in the scene with them,
Yeah.
and then it transitions over.
There was some... I mean, there definitely was some really neat stuff that happened in this.
So Kung Fu has an epic Kung Fu fight with Gorgeous. Like, she's jumping off the walls, she's landing on the ceiling, and a lamp eats her.
Yeah. Yes.
But her disembodied legs continue to try to kick this portrait, and it does.
Yes.
It kicks the painting of the cat.
We
Everything.
go full bed knobs and broomsticks at this point.
The only people left are Fantasy and Prof. The painting, like, starts spitting out blood, and it fills the room up with blood.
Yes. They said it's cat's blood.
And so now they're floating on a door.
Like full Rose and Jack style, except this time Rose scooted the fuck over and let Jack on the door.
And when Prof gets pulled off the board by a tin can with teeth.
Yes. And then a piggy bank raises up out of the blood wearing her glasses.
Then we get a scene or we get a shot where we see her disintegrate in the water.
Mm-hmm. And then she becomes naked.
And then Fantasy's the only one left. So if you're thinking, hey, how is this getting more bizarre?
Just wait.
Because the door floats over to the stairs where Gorgeous is waiting. So Fantasy reaches out for Gorgeous, grabs hold of her blouse, and pulls it down to reveal her breasts.
Because why not?
Gorgeous switches into the aunt, switches into the mom, switches back to Gorgeous, causing Fantasy to call her mommy and lay her head on her chest. So while this is going on, we go back to Mr. Togo, who arrives at the watermelon guy who was earlier in the film told the kids where to find the house.
Mm-hmm.
But while he was doing it, he was being super creepy. But Mr. Togo asks the watermelon guy if he knows where the kids are, and he says they've been eaten and it's delicious. And then he asks him, "Do you like watermelons?"
And he's like, "No, I don't like watermelons. I like bananas."
He gets super upset and like starts yelling about bananas. And this kills, like literally kills the watermelon guy.
Yeah.
His skeleton comes out of his body.
Yeah.
So the scene ends with Fantasy laying her chest on Gorgeous, and then the new mom, stepmom, shows up at the house, and she is pleased as punch at everything going on. She's like infatuated with the grapes. She's smelling the roses.
Mm-hmm.
She's feeling
breathing
the breeze.
The air. Yeah.
She's enjoying life. I wish I could enjoy life this much.
Well, you could if you weren't so cynical.
Right. She meets up with Gorgeous at the door, and Gorgeous invites her in. They're sitting in a very uncomfortable position that I know is like a Japanese thing that I don't understand as well.
Mm-hmm.
I could not see sitting on my knees like that for that long.
No, your feet would go to sleep.
So she asks her where her friends are, and Gorgeous tells her that her friends are sleeping, but they'll wake up when they're hungry. So this is what makes you think that they're now zombies.
Yeah.
And then Gorgeous causes her to burst into flames.
Which, I mean, those among us who have step-parents, at some point, everyone's wanted to set their step-parent on fire. But you don't do it.
Except the only thing that this stepmom has done is tried to be friends.
Sometimes that's the worst thing you could possibly do.
They've only met twice. This is the second time.
She's a very good read of personality.
So that's the end of the film. There's no way to sum up how bananas this film is without actually watching it.
It is amazing. It is worth the like $4.99 on Amazon or whatever.
Now, personally, I would recommend watching it on mute.
No.
Just read the subtitles.
No, you gotta experience the sound. It's so bonkers.
I honestly cannot take another...
And I'm telling you, that is another song. I cannot put my finger on what it is.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, God.
But there's a song that goes dun,
I'm telling you,
dun,
it's the
dun,
Polyphonic
dun.
Spree song.
dun. And then it goes into something else. If you know what song that is, email me. I
Or
need to know.
on Twitter. So, let's jump into the end of this thing.
Okay. Let's wrap her up.
So, is this movie gory?
A smidge?
They weren't going for realism.
No, it's like almost funny.
Yeah, they were going for like,
Silly. It's silly gore.
is this movie scary?
No. I mean, but maybe it is. Maybe it's like on the way home terrifying.
If
You know what I mean?
If imagery gets to you, like there's some pretty creepy imagery in this film.
I mean, like I said earlier, this could either be the scariest thing you've ever seen or the goofiest thing you've ever seen. Just depending on what mood you're in and how you are inclined to take things.
Yeah.
As soon as we saw the titles and it was like full Terry Gilliam, I was like, oh, this is fine. We're going to be fine.
House. Is this film nightmare-inducing?
Maybe? Again, it just depends on how you take things.
If the imagery gets you...
If it's going to bother you, it's going to bother you. But I don't think so.
Is this film worth watching?
Yes. Please do it.
On mute.
No, with the sound. And you probably need to watch it twice. You need to watch it once just to sit in it, just like bask in it. And then you need to watch it again to see what actually happened. Because I think if we watched it 3 or 4 more times, there would be a lot of stuff.
Like I said, this is one that's really hard to explain.
I think it's weird as shit.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, just to be completely blunt. So that was House, the 1977 Japanese horror comedy slapstick Monty Python thing. We enjoyed it. We hope you will watch it as well. It is worth your eyeballs time.
Thanks to Brandon Tuzio for our theme song. You can hear more of his work on soundcloud.com/Brandon Tuzio. That's Tuzio.
Tuzio.
Tuzio. If you like what we're doing, rate and review us on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. And tell us what movie you want us to do next on...
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Scaredy Cat Pod.
You got anything else?
No,
All right.
I don't.
Adios, muchachos.
Bye.